Welcome everyone to the Strengthening Partnership webinar series. We are so glad you're here with us. Our session topic is centered around purpose and pathway to nurture social and emotional well-being. This presentation is brought to you by the California Department of Education, Special Education Division, and the Seeds of Partnership Project. Thank you for taking the time out of the schedule to join us. So I want to point out a few language options here for our session. American Sign Language will be spotlighted, and translated captions will be accessed by finding the Show Captions icon at the bottom of the Zoom menu and selecting the arrow. This opens up a menu where you select the translation button. If it's turned blue, then that's active on the menu. Choose My Caption Language, where you'll select the language you'd like the captions to display. For example, here I'm showing that the slideshow's speaking language is English, and I'm choosing to display Spanish captions. Next slide. My name's Robin Ryan, and I'm the coordinator of Seeds of Partnership Project. And with me supporting in this session are colleagues from Seeds of Partnership and the California Department of Education Special Education Team. We're excited to bring forward the webinar series. Our goal is to create a space where families of children and young adults with disabilities, educators, and other professionals can come together to learn and connect with effective strategies and resources and insights that support students with disabilities. We hope through sharing knowledge and experiences through presentations and spotlights, these sessions will inspire and forward meaningful conversations, foster collaboration, and highlight the voices of parents, students, and educators and others who make a difference in supporting students' lives. Our topics are generated from years of direct input and from both families and educators in California, and we look forward to adding additional highlights that are brought up by you all joining us today through the recording or live here today after completing the feedback form. We're adding a link to the feedback form now into the chat link, and it will also be displayed later on the screen toward the end of the session. But we hope that you take the time to share your thoughts with us about the sessions and considerations for future sessions. This session is being recorded, and it will be available on our Seeds website in the e-learning gallery, where you can also find previous recordings and registration for upcoming webinars. So for those of you that are not familiar with Seeds of Partnership, we are a longtime partner and technical assistance project funded by the California Department of Education, Special Education Division, out of the Sacramento County Office of Education. We partner on a variety of initiatives with the Department of Education. We provide training and develop resources and support around all things family engagement, assistance with compliance improvement monitoring, and coordinated support to the family empowerment centers. To learn more, please visit our website at www.seedsofpartnership.org. Next slide. Our session today. So we have an organization spotlight, which is the Greater Good Science Center from the University of California, Berkeley. Joining us today is Dr. Maryam Abdullah, and she will walk us through learning more about the topic of social and emotional well-being as a practitioner and also parent, and how to prioritize a sense of purpose. We will also explore related insights and practices from research about a sense of purpose for parents and families to better foster their social and emotional well-being. Some resources and supports are designed for educators to access, and some are designed for parents, and others for both parents and educators and anybody to explore. So throughout this session, we will utilize the chat box and drop in links to resources that are discussed by the presenter. I'll now introduce our California Department of Education Director, Dr. Rachel Heenan, for some opening remarks. And we can move to the next slide. Thank you, Rachel, for being here with us.
Of course. Thank you, Robin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Heenan. I'm the Director of Special Education Division for the California Department of Education. Welcome back to the 25-26 school year. I know it's an extremely busy time of year for everyone, so I appreciate you all being here today. And welcome to the seventh session of Strengthening Partnerships for Students with Disabilities webinar series. I'm truly honored to be here to open this session, and thank you all for your continued partnership in this webinar series as we've been collectively building stronger, more informed, collaborative partnerships between families, educators, and support systems in special education throughout California. During these series, we continue to strengthen partnerships by exploring topics such as family engagement and support in student learning, navigating the special education procedural safeguards, expanding access through specialized media for educators and families, and supporting families and children with disabilities, where we provided a brief overview of the California Family Centers. So considering the multitude of areas that we have explored to better support our students and families and communities as a whole, it's easy to forget that we as parents and educators and leaders also need time and support to focus on our own well-being, which is why today's webinar will focus on purpose, a pathway to nurture social and emotional well-being. This topic is particularly relevant to us in education, as we've had those days where we work through lunch and to focus on creating lesson plans or presentations, or even emails. Or we've resisted taking breaks in order to respond to these emails and work through sickness sometimes because we feel it's just too overwhelming or too much to catch up when we call in sick. And as parents and educators and leaders, it's our nature to make these sacrifices in order to support our children and communities. But these sacrifices do accumulate, and if left unchecked, can be detrimental, not only to our own social and emotional well-being, but those around us and those who depend on us. So fortunately, there are many approaches to improving and focusing on one's social and emotional well-being, and today's session will do just that by focusing on one's purpose. Focusing on one's purpose shifts us from inward worries to being part of something larger. And when we prioritize well-being, our own, with each other, and with our students, we build an environment of a culture of empathy, trust, and belonging. So this now leads me to today's presenter, Dr. Maryam Abdullah, who we really appreciate for joining us today from the Greater Good Science Center at the University of California, Berkeley. Go Bears! She'll explore this topic with us and share the research and science behind the importance of well-being. So on behalf of CDE, I'd like to thank Robin Ryan again, Seeds of Partnership, and the team at CDE for their continued work on this webinar series. And again, Dr. Maryam Abdullah for partnering with us on this month's webinar. And of course, an enormous thank you to everyone here for taking the time for this unique opportunity to partner and learn with us. So we thank you for your time, and now let's get started.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Appreciate your welcoming remarks. We can move to the next slide. So just to lay the foundation for our topic today, as we jump in, I want to touch on why the focus on social and emotional well-being is important for parents and families of children with disabilities and those who support them. So we have it split here, parents and caregivers and educators and service providers, just to share that it's important for both. So for parents and caregivers, this is vital. It supports their ability to provide effective care and positively impacts the well-being of the person they're caring for by fostering a more stable, responsive, and nurturing environment. Prioritizing well-being is linked to reduced stress, better emotional regulation, and a greater capacity to support the person with a disability of which they're caring for. For educators and service providers, a focus on well-being is crucial for staff supporting students with disabilities and their parents because it nurtures their resilience, empathy, and provide positive relationships with students and parents. This is vital for overall student learning and development to have well-supported staff. So as you learn more about social and emotional well-being with the focus on purpose today, I invite you to think about how this can apply to you and your child or the parents and students that you're working with. We'll transition to our next slide now. So coming in with us now, I'm excited to introduce our partner presenting with us today, Dr. Maryam Abdullah. She's the Parenting Program Director at the Greater Good Science Center, or GGSC, and at the University of California, Berkeley. She is a developmental psychologist with expertise in parent-child relationships and children's social and emotional development. At the Greater Good Science Center, her role is to develop resources for professionals and organizations providing parenting education to foster parents' well-being and to help parents nurture their children's well-being. She also shares developmental science findings on the Greater Good online magazine, which offers science-based insights for a meaningful life. Maryam has shared research findings on parenting, social and emotional development with the Washington Post, BBC, CNN, NPR, and the list goes on. Prior to joining the Greater Good Science Center, she was an assistant project scientist with the University of California, Irvine Child Development School in the Department of Pediatrics, a behavioral health program where she supported parents and children and conducted intervention, evaluation, and research. A deeply personal turning point that fueled her passion even further was after her nephew was diagnosed with autism. She returned to graduate school to dive even deeper into the field and expanding her reach to make even more of a difference relating to a broader variety of families and the work and science behind supporting them. So thank you for spending time with us, Maryam, and sharing a piece of your work with us today.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you to the Seeds of Partnership for the invitation to join this wonderful community, which, as you shared, is near and dear to my heart. Thank you to Dr. Heenan for providing some welcoming remarks and for the California Department of Education support as well. I am jazzed together with all of you. As Robin shared, my name is Maryam, and I am actually part of a two-person team. Megan Bander is my teammate. She is on this webinar as well and will be responding to any questions in the chat and also dropping in some resources from the Greater Good Science Center in the chat for further exploration. Next slide, please. So I just want to provide a roadmap of our conversation today. We'll do a little bit of table setting with introductions, dive into a welcome activity just to dip our toes into thinking about a sense of purpose or meaning in life. We'll do a quick overview of the topic of purpose from a research perspective, have an opportunity to engage in self-reflection, to really experience this topic for us personally, whether we are parents of teens with or children with disabilities or practitioners serving parents and families and students with disabilities. And then I will transition us into just a taste of some practical, concrete activities that we can do to nurture a sense of purpose in our lives. And then we'll close with a optimistic activity. Next slide, please. So my professional home at the Greater Good Science Center, I'd love to share a little bit more about our mission, which is to study the science of social and emotional well-being from a broad array of scientific disciplines like psychology, sociology, and neuroscience, and then teach skills and insights that foster a thriving, resilient, and compassionate society. Next slide, please. Most folks know about us from our free online magazine, Greater Good. I invite you all to take a look at it. If you haven't already, Megan will probably drop a link into the chat to access that. We have a vertical for parents and families as well as for educators, as well as lots of other audiences that want to better understand the science of a meaningful life. Next slide, please. Another way that we try to teach skills to foster a resilient and compassionate society is through our brand new workbook, which we're jazzed to tell you about. We just launched this workbook. This is a workbook for people who support parents and families, and it's all about distilling our best insights into the science of a meaningful life and how to nurture social and emotional well-being. Next slide, please. In this workbook, it's also available for free as a digital download, so I encourage you or invite you to check it out. You'll see that we are guided by a principle of ensuring that we're caring for the caregivers. That means you, parents, and that means you, practitioners, educators, administrators, folks who work within community-based organizations that work directly with parents and families, and leaders of those types of organizations who provide oversight and leadership for supporting caregivers and families as well, all embedded within a community. Next slide, please. So the design of this workbook really will be modeled in our presentation today, which is sharing activities and insights for people who support parents and families. We call them practitioners. And then sharing resources for parents to also try activities to nurture their social and emotional well-being. And then finally, resources, parent-child resources to nurture the social and emotional well-being of children. Next slide, please. Today, we are going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into a sense of purpose. This is one of 9 keys to well-being within our workbook that you'll just kind of get a taste of today. In addition to these 9 keys to well-being that are we provide an overview as well as resources on individually, we have a second part in our workbook that relays information on foundational topics like how we develop across the lifespan. What does it mean to parent as a team? Grandmas, grandpas, aunties, uncles, all the folks that are responsible for caring and nurturing children. And also on cultural humility, as well as adversity and resilience. So some foundational topics that might be really important for practitioners who are serving parents and families. Next slide, please. My aim for today is to help you to identify some science-based characteristics of a sense of purpose, what that means for yourself as a practitioner, as a parent, as well as what that means for children. Understanding some of the research behind a sense of purpose and the benefits of a sense of purpose, which were already foregrounded in the introductory remarks. And then finally, provide you with some takeaway activities, some concrete step-by-step activities that you can use to nurture a sense of purpose within yourself, be it if you are a practitioner or a parent, and also resources for parents to nurture a sense of purpose in their teens. Next slide, please. All right, so let's get into it with just dipping our toes into thinking about a sense of meaning or purpose in our lives. And I invite you to take this activity to your next staff meeting, your next parent group meeting, your next family dinner, if it is an activity that feels resonant for you. This activity just involves noticing the items at your desk or the room that you're in, and kind of zeroing in on finding one that's especially meaningful to you. What does this item represent to you? Why is it meaningful? So as you kind of ponder this question, I will get us to talking a little bit more about what are we talking about when we talk about a sense of purpose. Next slide, please. For researchers who devote their careers to studying a sense of purpose in life, there are two components to what a sense of purpose is that's really important to share with you all. The first is a sense of purpose is pursuing and reaching goals over a long period of time across two dimensions. Goals that are both personally meaningful as well as doing good beyond just me as an individual, but impacting the world in a positive way. Next slide, please. And with researchers who study this particular key to well-being, they do this subjectively through questionnaires often, with items like how much do you agree or disagree on a scale of 1 to 4, for example, with statements like, some people wander aimlessly through life, but I'm not one of them. To me, the things I do are worthwhile. My plans for the future match with my true interests and values. Next slide, please. When we're thinking about understanding what a sense of purpose is, which we all probably have a kind of innate or lay understanding of that goes beyond the research, but from our own personal experiences, we can also think about how a sense of purpose has helped us in our lives, throughout our lives. And there is mounting research on the great many benefits of a sense of purpose in life. So researchers have found that people with a greater sense of purpose tend to have greater life satisfaction. They're more resilient during challenging times or stressors. And this is particularly relevant for parents of children with disabilities and people who support them as well. A greater sense of purpose has also been linked to better health and cognitive functioning, and even a longer lifespan. Next slide, please. I'd like to just give you a snapshot of a few studies that have looked at a sense of purpose and how it may benefit different domains of our lives. So for example, in one study, researchers found that there are people with a strong sense of purpose tend to not have big dips in their moods, and they also have far fewer physical symptoms like headaches or fatigue when they face day-to-day challenges, daily stressors, big or small, compared to people without a strong sense of purpose. And of course, this is incredibly important for thinking about the parents in our communities who are navigating different systems and resources to support their children with disabilities. Next slide, please. We also know that from research, there are links between a sense of purpose and physical health. In this study, for example, over time, adults with a strong sense of purpose tended to develop fewer concerning health behaviors. They're more likely to be physically active as opposed to being physically inactive. And they're more likely to have better sleep quality compared to sleep problems in comparison to people without a strong sense of purpose. And this particular study followed people across nearly a decade. So a long-term benefit linked to a sense of purpose in the physical health domain. Next slide, please. And finally, one last study finding that I'd like to share with you is thinking about the research on a sense of purpose and cognitive ability or cognitive functioning in the latter parts of our lives. So in this particular study, researchers found that older adults with a stronger sense of purpose were less likely to develop cognitive impairments, like difficulties with their memory or their thinking, when they were in their 70s and in their 80s, compared to people without a strong sense of purpose in life. So I gave you a quick snapshot of some of the research and the science behind a sense of purpose, its benefits. And now I'd like to invite you, next slide please, to just take a moment. What does this mean for you as a parent, as a professional, a staff person, an educator who works with parents and families? So I'd like to guide you through a set of statements, and I invite you to reflect on how much do you agree or disagree with each of these statements. And Following each of these statements, I invite you to just consider, how do your responses reveal to you, if any, opportunities for developing a stronger sense of purpose in your life? So I'll go ahead and just walk you through some of these statements. First of all, how much do you agree with or disagree with each of them? The first one, I know how to use my talents to contribute meaningfully to the larger world. I clearly understand what it is that makes my life feel worthwhile. I can describe my purpose well. I put effort into making my goals a reality. So I'll just pause for a moment here, give you just a few seconds to ponder. Do your responses reveal to you that there may be some opportunities to develop a stronger sense of purpose in your life? And if you're a person, an educator or a staff person who supports parents, how much do you imagine the parents whom you work with might agree or disagree with some of these statements? And finally, what resources could the community offer to support parents in fostering a greater sense of purpose? Next slide, please. So we know from research that purpose, our sense of purpose, changes across the lifespan. That's something that we can come to expect. Just think back on your own emerging sense of purpose in your teenage years and how that might have changed for those of us who are parents during that transition to parenthood, how our experiences becoming a new parent shifted our sense of purpose in some way. And for parents of children with disabilities, we may need to revisit our sense of purpose across different times of our lives as well, in the face of new milestones or new setbacks. And of course, in our middle age years and in our older adulthood, we can imagine or we can reflect on how our sense of purpose has changed over time as well. The thing about a sense of purpose is that it's nurtured throughout our lifetime through practice. And some of the ways in which we can think about nurturing our sense of purpose is really telling our stories, what we've experienced in our lives, clarifying our values, what's important to us, recognizing our strengths, and even imagining for a moment our best possible selves. Next slide, please. I would love to invite you to think about a few activities, reflection activities, that you may try to nurture your own sense of purpose. This particular activity, called life crafting, is based on a study that helps us define and commit to goals that are important and meaningful to us. So I'll walk you through this particular activity, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the science behind it. For this activity, I invite you to create two separate lists if you have a piece of paper handy at your desk. One list will be for you to write down your greatest values. For some people, that might be things like honesty or empathy or compassion or family. And on a second list, what are the things you most like to do? So this may be things that you like to do in solitude as an individual on your own, It may be things you like to do in community, with family, with neighbors, with groups that you belong to, colleagues at work, with your children. And once you've created these two separate lists, the next invitation is to reflect on your ideal future. How do you envision your social life or your career would turn out? What kinds of relationships would you want to have? How would you spend your time outside of work? And as you're reflecting on this ideal future with these 3 prompts, you'll next describe how you might achieve some of these goals that you've envisioned in your ideal future. This 3rd step really involves thinking about what's most important out of these goals that you've listed. What's the priority? What could get in the way of me achieving this goal? And how can I track my progress towards this goal? And finally, make a public commitment. So this particular step involves sharing what you've reflected on and how you intend to track your progress with people in your family or in your workplace or folks that matter to you. So this life crafting activity is something that you're just getting a taste of during this short time that we have together. Megan will certainly be able to share this resource with you to do at your leisure. Next slide, please. I did want to just give you a little bit more information about the science behind this practice. So researchers believe this type of activity or reflection or exercise, doing it step by step, can help us kind of think back to what have we aspired to do and maybe was sort of buried among the long to-do list or the list of emails that we're needing to get to. This kind of helps us understand or rekindle some of the things that we aspire towards, and to also see new possibilities, to imagine something different about our lives and the goals that we hold most dear. The way this practice works, or this activity works, is it makes this sort of large, sometimes daunting idea of nurturing a sense of purpose. It brings it down. It breaks it down into smaller steps so that we feel as if we're able to just take create smaller goals towards a larger goal, rather than feel overwhelmed by possibly thinking about, oh, what is my sense of purpose? Having these concrete steps as a bite-sized activity can help us better define what we want to do in terms of our long-term goals that are personally meaningful to us and can have a greater impact on the world. This activity also can help us have more clarity and be more resolute towards achieving and pursuing and achieving these goals as well. So this is one type of activity that I invite you to try, whether you are a parent or a person, an educator or a practitioner who works with parents, if you're interested in nurturing a sense of purpose in your life. Next slide, please. This next practice or activity or reflection is for parents, and this activity involves finding your purpose as a family, so developing a sense of identity and a meaning together. The way to think about this particular activity is there's 4 steps to it. The first is building a family identity. And this is where you, as a family, come together and think about, who are we as a family? What are our strengths? Secondly, connecting with your family's sense of purpose. What constructive impacts does our family have on the world? And for example, for parents of children with disabilities, that may be we are a family who is active in supporting other families of children with disabilities. We are a family who advocates for people with disabilities, for example. The third step is to draw on your cultural strengths to help bolster your family identity and purpose. So tapping into the wisdom of past generations and family traditions that support your sense of identity and purpose as well. And finally, thinking about navigating intense emotions to stay connected to your family purpose. And in particular for families of children with disabilities who may experience an extra layer of emotional challenges and intense experiences, being able to model healthy coping strategies as parents and family members, be it through positive self-talk or relaxation techniques or talking about your feelings very openly as a way of helping you to regulate some of those intense emotions. Those can all help you stay connected to your sense of purpose as a family. And of course, there are lots of times where there's an ebb and flow of hardship and ease in our lives where navigating intense emotions is particularly important in order to stay connected as a family to our bigger why and who we aspire to be and how we aspire to contribute to the broader world. Next slide, please. So this particular activity or practice, finding your purpose as a family, I would love to share a little bit more about the science behind it. So we know that people with a stronger sense of purpose tend to have greater health and well-being, and I shared some of those scientific findings earlier. Thinking about your cultural beliefs and practices and reflecting on them and drawing strength from them can provide meaning and positive identity, particularly when you're facing adversities and stress. Parents who have greater coping skills tend to have children with greater well-being as well, and that has to do with our ability to navigate intense emotions, being able to model those types of healthy coping strategies as well. Relatedly, the final point around responding to our children's stress helps them to co-regulate their emotions as well. We have other types of activities and practices for parents to try to reflect on their purpose as a parent, which we talked about earlier as we're transitioning to being a new parent. Sometimes that transition comes with lots of excitement and joy. And the same is true when our children, no matter what their ages are, we derive a great sense of purpose from being able to nurture the well-being of our own another family member. So this particular practice involves thinking about or reflecting on what are some long-term goals and aspirations that we have for our children. And secondly, calling to mind something that's happened as in our parent-child relationships where we can identify a core value that it reflects. So for example, maybe there was a time where you had an experience with your child that involved play and fun. Maybe one of your core values is joy and playfulness. Maybe it involved a way of just being really attuned to your child, anticipating something that they may have needed or were unable to put into words, but because you were able to tune in to what they were expressing to you, you were able to identify how to support your child during a time that was critical. And maybe that represents a core value that you have of empathy. The next reflection are 2 to 3 specific character strengths that you bring to being a parent. Maybe it's your generosity. Maybe it's your love, compassion. And what are 2 or 3 specific skills you're motivated to develop as a parent? Perhaps better communication. Maybe it's your openness to uncertainty. And finally, this activity invites you to reflect on your unique combinations of values, strengths, and skills, and your long-term goals and aspirations that you have for your children. This final reflection invites you to consider, what impact do you want to make on your children's lives or in the world through your role as a parent? Next slide, please. So the science behind this particular practice tells us that, we can know a lot intellectually about a sense of purpose, but that knowledge by itself doesn't inspire a sense of purpose. To find a sense of purpose, we need to understand how what we do is linked to our lives as a whole and our sense of self. So this reflection on your purpose as a parent activity helps you recenter yourself by allowing you or giving you a moment to remember just how meaningful your role is as a parent and how well aligned it is to what matters most to you. All right, next slide, please. I will close out this portion of the presentation around practices with a couple of practices that have to do with nurturing a sense of purpose in teens. We have 2 practices that Megan will share in the chat as links for you to take a look at further. The first one is reflecting on important values for teens, and then another one involves a conversation, talking to teens about a sense of purpose. These are parent-child practices. If you work very closely with teens as a practitioner or as an educator, this may be a practice that you consider trying with the teens in your classroom or in the setting that you work in as well. And when we're thinking about teens with disabilities, you'll see that there are some examples of prompts to guide you on this practice. Of course, we invite you to please adjust these prompts to whatever the teen in your life has in terms of their specific abilities to participate. What's important here is to invite teens to reflect on their experiences and keep open lines of communication through conversation about their experiences. Next slide, please. So this first parent-child practice involves encouraging teens to think about several guiding prompts, like, I'm thankful for all the experiences in my life. However, what shaped me into who I am today was, and then encouraging the teen in your life to fill in the blank there. Another guiding prompt would be, we were fortunate to get to spend time with our family and friends that year and a description of a particular moment that was reflective of an important value for your teen. Again, please consider how you can adjust these prompts for teens who use augmentative and alternative communication to help them to be open to reflecting on these prompts and be open to these kinds of conversations. So for example, you can consider how you'd adjust this activity so that it's accessible for teens who are able to give 1 to 2 word responses, either verbally or non-verbally, pictorially perhaps. Next slide, please. This second practice is called Talk with Teens About Purpose. And this activity involves a discussion, just a conversation between parents and teens, or if you're an educator who works with teens in a particular classroom or another setting, this could be an activity you do together. This activity invites a discussion with prompts like, what's most important to you in your life? Why do you care about those things? And then the second part of this activity involves encouraging your teen to talk about their sense of purpose in life with other adults that are important to them. So people who know them well, and to help them get feedback about their strengths. So with questions like, what do you think I'm particularly good at? Or what are my greatest strengths from your point of view? Consider how your teen may need help in crafting some questions to ask the adults in their lives when they're requesting feedback. And perhaps you can think through how to support your teen in capturing feedback from the adults in their lives, either by writing or audio recording some of the conversation. However best your teen is able to communicate. Alrighty. Next slide, please. I wanted to invite you to just think about this broad topic of a sense of purpose. We've done a lot of a review of the science. We've done a lot of thinking about the benefits, as well as reflecting on what a sense of purpose in our lives mean to us, where there may be opportunities to grow stronger in our sense of purpose, how it changes across the lifespan, and ways we can nurture a greater sense of purpose within our own lives as adults, be it parents or practitioners, educators, staff who work with children and parents and families. And also activities and ways to help the teens in our lives nurture a greater sense of purpose as well. To close, I invite you to ponder this reflection. If you were looking back on your life, how would you want to be remembered? And this particular reflection helps you tap again into what's most meaningful to you. What are your values? What are your strengths? How can you contribute to the world around you to make it a positive community or neighborhood or classroom? And this invitation, I invite you to kind of keep this question in your pocket all day today as you're thinking about a sense of purpose. And knowing that there are many ways in which our sense of purpose changes throughout our lifetimes, and being okay with shifting what our intentions and long-term goals are to be meaningful. Next slide, please. I'd love to stay connected. If you are new to the Greater Good Science Center, and if our resources are ones that you haven't already discovered in the past, we encourage you to take a look at our website. Again, our workbook is free to download. It's something that I think practitioners who work with people who support parents might be able to adapt in different types of communities and circumstances. So we encourage you to take inspiration from it. It's a resource that you can read cover to cover, or just take little chapters at a time and figure out how you might want to share these insights and science based strategies with parents and families whom you work with. And of course, we have our Greater Good Parenting monthly newsletter. Please feel free to subscribe to that to get news about science-based insights on parenting and family in your inbox each month. All right, and last slide, please. Thank you all. I'll turn it over to Robin.
Thank you, Maryam, for sharing so much and sharing the science behind purpose and reminding us of that invitation to pause and self-reflection on our own purpose and some strategies and activities of exactly how to do that. And the newsletters and information in the chat is most helpful. Thank you. We could go to the next slide. So as in previous sessions, I would like to highlight the Family Empowerment Centers as a resource for parents who have children with disabilities, age 3 to 22. They provide resources, information, and support, and they are funded through the the California Department of Education and supported by the California Department of Education and Seeds of Partnership. So for the most up-to-date contact information, you can visit the Family Empowerment Center website through the link that's added to the chat, which is simply www.californiafamilyempowermentcenters.org. And there at this website, you can find information about each of the family centers and learn a little bit more about the services they provide in your region. Next slide. In closing, we do have a feedback survey. We would like to hear from you. So what was your biggest takeaway from this session? Is there anything further you'd be interested in learning more about related to social and emotional well-being? Share your family school partnership stories with us. What's working well? What isn't? What sessions or topic areas can we lift up? What would be helpful to you? We have a QR code here. We've got the link there. We've got a link going in the chat. So we really, really hope you take the time to share with us what did you pull from today's session, and also what else can we focus on that would be meaningful to you as educators, as families, all centered around partnerships together with families and schools. Next slide. We invite you to register for an upcoming webinar. As a reminder, these are the fourth Thursday of the month from 11 to 12 in the afternoon, and they are recorded. But here's where you would go to register for each of the sessions. It's on our Seeds of Partnership website in our webinar and video gallery. Next slide. So on behalf of the California Department of Education, Dr. Rachel Heenan, our Seeds of Partnership crew, and the Sacramento County Office of Education, I want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Maryam Abdullah for presenting, Coordinator Megan Bander for contributing and assisting in the background of the session, and we thank all of you for joining us today. Through learning together, we strengthen partnerships. Thank you.